Yeah, it's, you know, we've been living together, this crew, for the last 9 months, and most of us for the last 3.5 years. So there's always that kind of great elation when you're nearing the end. At the same time, there's a little, you know, in the back is a little sadness because you're going to be apart from these people who you're spending at least 12 hours every day with. So it's a mixed time for me. You know, you're happy and you're sad, but basically you're happy because everybody needs a break.
But unlike maybe an actor working on another show, this must be particularly easy for you to come to work because each time or each week, let's say, you're really sort of changing your character. It's not really going to the same role over and over again. Right.
Well, yeah, certainly I never get bored, and I'm almost always challenged every week in a script with something new, something that I personally as an actor or as a human being have never done before. So I'm very fortunate that way. And compounded with that is the fact that it's different for the crew every week too, and they are affected by a good script, a bad script, a good cast, a cast that's not quite as good. Or they all react to these things also organically. So it's a wonderful job because everybody creatively is constantly being asked to create, and there is no tedium in the sense of a long-running series. We'll be going into year 5 next year. Oh, you know, another show in the courtroom. You know, we don't have any of that, which is wonderful.
When you were in acting school or wherever it was that you were learning your craft, did you ever think you'd be nominated at some point for being Woman of the Year?
No, they don't prepare you in acting class to. The men never do the pregnancy, you're giving birth scene. So this has been incredibly eye-opening for me, this show, in so many areas. But it's been great. I mean, it's wonderful to get a chance to do the stretch that I'm able to do on the show, and it's really I can't imagine a better role on television.
Now, whatever it is about the show, whether it's the chemistry between you and Dean or the storyline, whatever, it certainly works. And you guys, in fact, have a cult following, not unlike the Trekkies from Star Trek. Is that ever unsettling for you that you have these leapers or leapies, or I don't know what you guys call them?
Leapers, they're called. No, they are so wonderful, and they've been so constant in their devotion to the show and their following of it all over the schedule as we were moved around a lot in the beginning, and it's been certainly something that I wasn't prepared for, this kind of following, but it's just been incredible to watch. We just had a big convention and we turned away 1,000 people, which I feel terrible about that we had to turn anybody away. But they've been wonderfully supportive. They're very, very bright people. When I see them and meet them, they're never. It's never a bad scene. You know, you imagine scenes with, you know, fans in public and everything. But for the most part, it's always a pleasant experience to meet fans of the show. And they're always very honest about their feelings for the show, and yet they're also very honest about, you know, they let me do my thing out in public, which is really great. I don't feel terribly handicapped that way.
Do you ever think about this role potentially being sort of like Captain Kirk? I mean, where 20 years from now, people will still be watching the same shows over and over again.
I think that will happen with the show. I really do. I don't think I'll have the same impact as a Captain Kirk because, again, I'm not the same. It's not, you know, there's definitely identity with Captain Kirk. There's a kind of fluidity with our show, and it moves and changes, and the face changes, and the look of it changes from week to week, which I think keeps it exciting to watch. But there isn't that solid kind of Spock and Captain Kirk kind of thing. Dean is much more constant than I am, and I think his character will become, you know, a legendary character, certainly in TV lore, but more so than mine.
Now, this episode that you guys are shooting today, you guys have a first on the show where you're actually leaping into Al.
Yes.
It's a situation where history will start being changed. Is that something that is, I mean, if you were given the opportunity to do the same thing, to actually go back in time, change history, would you do it?
That's a very tough question. I think certainly I think you would feel compelled to do that, to change things. It would be very hard to leap into a situation or be in a situation where someone was going to die or something terrible was going to happen to somebody's life and not do something about it. I wouldn't want to abuse it. You know, if we did an episode very early on where I leaped into somebody and I knew the outcome of a fight, so I could put money on a fight, win money from the fight, and thereby get a church for the nuns who needed it in church, you know, and all that. But you could abuse that knowledge. So it's one of those things where I'm a big believer in fate also. So that's a tough question for me.
And about this episode, does your character find this situation very difficult to deal with because he's actually changing history and could jeopardize his friend's future?
I think it's certainly a predicament for Sam. We're different. We work differently than the Star Trek conventions of time travel, et cetera, et cetera. We found that I like to explain it that get out of my light, you slimy guy, you slimy hologram who shouldn't even be in my light. Get out of my light.
PTS, prime time slime, right?
Get out. Well, yeah, but I explain it away by saying that if I indeed went back, if Sam Beckett went back and changed something in time, we would never know that it was changed. Therefore, we would never know that we had affected history. So, therefore, it's okay to go back and change it.
Kind of
I mean, if you want to talk about the time, yes, the quantum theory of time travel, we wouldn't know that I've changed anything. So therefore, maybe it was always meant to be changed, and therefore, then, it was always meant to happen in the way that it's happening.
Any plot lines that you guys have yet to delve into that you would like to, hopefully, in the next season? Or?
Yeah, I would still love to be an infant, which we haven't been able to work out yet. There's some environmental shows that we'd like to do. I'd like to do a show about the homeless. I'd like to do a show about AIDS. I tend to like to do a lot of the shows that have social implications and things, and we have a nice balance here that we try not, every show can't be that way. So we have a light show, a whimsical show, a comedy show, something that's dramatic, a romance. It's a nice mixture. But I'd like to work those kind of shows in next year too, if we can.
So instead of shying away, you actually seek out sometimes controversial. I know there's been controversy on the show at times.
Yeah. I think we have to. I think if you examine this purely, if someone is actually leaping me to different situations, we can't just limit it to 35-year-old white males who have problems. You know, it had to be. I said very early on. I said there are more women in the world than men. So we should definitely not, ignore the women. We can't ignore the different ethnic groups. We have to be true. We have to get out and investigate all kinds of problems because everybody has problems.
Okay, great.
Okay.
As we wind up your fourth season and look forward to your fifth season, what are your thoughts? You just mentioned that you would be anxious to just blend the two together.
Well, I don't know about blending the two together. We work straight through for 9 months, and I think it's good to have a little transition to something else for a period of time before coming back. It seems so far, these 3.5 years, that it's just a perfect amount of time where we enjoy coming back when we come back, and we're not totally obsessed with finishing when we finish. We're a little tired, but we've had some good times. We've done a lot of hard work, but we've had some good times. So I think the hiatus is a necessary and a good thing. However, I will be looking for work and features or movie of the week or this or that. I am, in fact, looking for something now. And hopefully I can find a couple of things, because I like to keep working. I'm not in the mood for a vacation. Last hiatus, I was only able to find one thing I only worked for a few days on, but it was a good one. It was Robert Altman's The Player, which I think is a sensational movie and is going to do very well.
Yeah, I've heard that. Actually, I'm going to see it, I think, tomorrow night.
Oh, you'll love it.
Yeah,
you'll love
that's what I've heard. David loved it. David Sheehan loved it. He'll review it well. Talk about the chemistry between you and Scott Bakula, because obviously, a lot of times it's easy to look at the chemistry between a man and a woman on the screen, but talk to me about your guys' chemistry.
Well, That's the kind of thing that I prefer to let other people do the talking about it, because I can't be that objective. I'm part of it. But I can say that it's something that just occurred organically from the first time we met and started to work together. It's nothing that either one of us have striven to develop. It's just been there. And fortunately, it's been something that we both enjoy. Our sense of timing seems to click well, and something is going on between us that is referred to as chemistry. And all I can say is I feel very lucky to have that kind of working relationship with an actor.
Well, whatever it is, it certainly works, and the show is doing well, and you've been picked up for a 5th season. Does it ever, in a way, even maybe sort of freak you out that knowing that you have created a new cult following, sort of like the Trekkies were to Star Trek? Does that ever...
Well, I can't say it freaks me out. It pleases me no end. A few weeks back, we had the first Quantum Leap convention here at the Universal Sheraton in a huge room. And the place was packed, and there were, I heard estimates of 1,300 people or so were turned away. And it's a remarkable feeling to witness this response to a show and to feel the affection that the fans have for the show and for us. It's quite remarkable, and I deeply appreciate it. It's a great thing.
Now in the show, you guys are constantly moving in time. Have you ever thought, and I know with this episode tonight, they actually go back in time and history is actually altered. Have you ever actually thought about actually going back in time? If you were given that opportunity to do what you guys do on the show, would you do it?
I doubt it. If I were given that opportunity, which of course is highly hypothetical, I doubt that I would do it. Because, you know, in Quantum Leap, this is not a serious thing. This is a dramatization, and it's fiction, and it's entertainment, and that's one thing, and that's fine. But if you ever seriously thought about if that were a reality, a real possibility, you would be taking quite an extraordinary responsibility on yourself to change history. Because if you change one instant of history in the past, the ramifications of that would be very, very radical. There would be an enormous temptation to do that, to try and make a better world by deciding on something in history that went wrong and go and change it. But one doesn't know what the repercussions of an action like that would be. So I don't know if I would want to take a responsibility like that. That's function of the deity, I think.